Good morning, everyone. Good morning, listening to us, everyone listening from any part of the world. You are welcome to our show. Behind the screens, domestic abuse seek help. Behind the screens, excuse me. So you're welcome to 97.1 FM Faza Radio. We're broadcasting live from Nottingham. And today, we welcome you back to the show, which we ended on a very, very interesting note last week. So I promised you last week that I was going to have with me an old-time guest who was with us at the very maiden editions of this show. So sit back today, and I must thank you for making our time at all times to join us week after week over the months. And it's been so nice. So today with me, I've got Veronica Simpson, a domestic abuse advocate and a specialist. Do I need to go to all those long introduction again? I don't need to, because you're not too much of a new person. No, it's just that you took some leave. Veronica, do you want to say good morning to our listeners?
Oh, good morning to the Radio Faza 9.
I think you're muted.
Excuse me? I didn't hear you. Sorry. Okay, so good morning to the listeners at Radio Faza 97.1 FM and to my special friend, Ulu. Thank you so much for inviting me along to come and join you in the studio, but also to share again on this important subject, domestic abuse, and to share information and have a discussion with you. It's such an honor to be in your presence again and to be on Radio Faza. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for honoring our invitation this morning, making out of your special time to volunteer to give to our community. By the way, those of you who have never met Veronica, she is an advocate and she is also a counselor, a psychotherapist, and indeed an advocate. She's been on this course for years, won several awards. So she's not just jumping on the train. She knows our news when we talk of domestic abuse. So to those of you who need help, this is the time for you to pick your pen and paper, pick your jotter, pick your writing pads, take notes, record whatever you want to record, and make the best of this half an hour, 40 minutes or thereabout, 45 minutes, whatever time we spend. We are having less than an hour with you. So please be focused and sit back. Don't touch the dial. That's the rule. That's the rule.
That's the rule, right? Don't touch.
Veronica, has it been worth the cost over time? What do you think? Advocating, you're an advocate of domestic abuse. I read a lot from your magazines and your blogs and, your newsletters. What's been like since the last time?
So, Ulu and listeners, what in terms of the length of time that I've been in this sector, I know that a lot of people leave the DV sector after so many years because it's such an emotive subject. But I've been in the sector for I think like 12 years, something like that. And I'm still as passionate as I was then as I am today, because there's definitely a necessity to keep spreading the awareness of domestic abuse and also to support those and encourage those that have been impacted by domestic abuse, sexual violence, whether in the present or in the past. in order for them to break their silence. I firmly believe that when a victim survivor shares their experience, when they find their voice, that it allows others to break the silence also. Because we know that with domestic abuse today, we know that there's a stigma, and because of that stigma, because people feel the shame and the guilt, that they tend not to speak about it. But I'm encouraging and will continue to advocate for those that are in silence to break that silence. And why? Because for me, as you know, Olu, it's personal. You know, it's purposeful, and it's personal. So it was initially personal, but now it's purposeful, because for those that haven't heard my story, I witnessed domestic abuse as a child. Obviously, as a child, you don't know how to articulate what you're experiencing. You're unable to articulate the trauma and the impact of what you've seen, but you go into kind of like I would say, like a protective mode. You want to protect it was my mum who was the victim survivor, but you want to protect the victim, but you also you try to protect yourself. You're unable to articulate that. And for me, Olu, it's taken me years. It took years for me to be able to even talk about what I'd experienced. And even up to today, my mum had 2 children. My mum had 2 children. And up to today, I've never had that conversation, that intimate conversation with my sibling. It's not a conversation that we talk about at all. We talk about absolutely everything else, but we never really talk about what we actually witnessed, what we endured, what my mum had endured. And some of the flashbacks that I get even up to today, they still trigger me up until today. They still trigger me. So, as you know, out of not that I planned to be in this sector for myself, but I was fortunate that this door opened, where I was able to work and gain my qualification as an IDVA, Independent Domestic Violence Advocate. And through that, I started to kind of understand what had happened all the way back then. But then Back in Control Consultancy was birthed out of that. And in terms of Back in Control Consultancy, we specialize in supporting faith organizations and encourage the training and awareness. But what do I want to share with you today, Olu? And I think, what we were going to do is that during the lockdown,
Go ahead.
So during the lockdown period,
it's to be honest with you, it's a very, very emotive subject. So I'm just reflecting, and then even though I started excitedly, I was just putting myself in your shoes, and it's turned out to be something that's of a pain, but turned to purpose, so to say.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot to share with us. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Pain to purpose. Absolutely. Yes. And I like that, because I'm hoping what you just said, Olu, will encourage other people that you can turn your pain to purpose. Similarly, when we were in the lockdown period, it was a very challenging time, especially for those that were at home with their abusive partners, because they were spending a lot more time together. Children were at home, they were homeschooling, people lost their job, they were furloughed. So there was much more pressure. It was like a pressure cooker for some.
Absolutely.
That were, enduring domestic abuse. But during that period of time when we were locked in, we were still reaching out as much as we possibly can, using different strategies and techniques in order to make contact. We know that the government said that you could go out for an hour to exercise, to go for a walk, and we would use that opportunity to say, we'll phone and just check in, let us know how you are, if you need additional support and things. But during that time, I got a little bit creative. And I started to tap into my creativity, my creative side that I didn't even know that I had. But I think so much goes on in your mind when you're going through various experiences. But if you don't journal what you've actually written down, what you've actually experienced, you tend to just have the flashbacks. But if you start to journal, and I'm encouraging journaling, it's very, very therapeutic in terms of coming to terms with what you've experienced, Olu. I don't know, do you journal at all?
I do. I understand what you're talking about. So, to be honest, it is in putting in pen and paper, well, probably on your digital part these days, those flashes, those thoughts that in your own um, comforting and pains, you are also able to help those who find themselves in such situations later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, as people of faith, we meditate and we pray. And that's the time when we can be completely, I'm going to say, naked before God.
Absolutely. You be
Because
yourself,
we
nothing
can
hidden, nothing withdrawn, nothing made up, no cosmetics, nothing whatsoever, no makeup.
absolutely
Plainly as you are.
the
In
mask, absolutely, you know, we can remove the mask in front of our children, the mask in front of our families, the mask that we have in our community, in even in our faith um, organizations, because we tend to cover up what's actually we're internalizing, that pain, the trauma, the disappointment, the confusion. We put a mask on. For some of us, we put makeup on. For others, we might be very bubbly and outgoing, but really, the trauma is still buying
in
away
there, in
there,
there.
in
Mm,
there, inwardly. So
mm.
during that challenge time we were locked in, Olu, I was approached by, I believe she came onto the show as well. I was approached by a poet, um,
Oh yeah,
Juliet Daniels. She did come onto the show
I
one.
remember a
You
poet on
remember
this.
her? Yeah.
Yes,
And she made touch with me, and she invited me because, you know, Zoom, we weren't using Zoom before, right? Well, I certainly
yeah,
wasn't using Zoom before the lockdown.
no, no.
And she invited me onto a platform, really, and it was like a creative words platform. And I'm sure that I must have had interest in, I'm very interested in you know, in words and great articulation of words, and you know, I really do like when people speak well and things like that. So I've always had that interest in language, I'm
In
going to say.
crafting words.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely right, in crafting words. I like the way you said that. So she invited me onto this platform, really, and it was about tapping into your creative sides. And obviously, because she's a poet, it was about digging deeper into maybe the gift that you have or may not have. Similarly, you know, what you get from journaling. And she said, she gave us a subject, and we kind of just, it was like the spoken word, and we kind of came back, and we, whatever came to our mind, we kind of tried to make it rhyme, and you know, and it was such fun. And then from that, she said that she wanted to gather some people of faith to become part of an anthology.
Wow.
And all of those individuals have lived experience of domestic abuse, both male and female. We know we tend to always talk about
More about females.
the
Yeah.
female perspective,
Mm.
but we know that men
Also.
are part of the statistics. 1 in 7 men will experience domestic abuse within their lifetime. And I know for women, sometimes we don't want to believe that we can be abusive. They say that a woman's weapon is her tongue. However, when you're on the receiving end of it, it's going to have an impact on an individual, regardless whether they're male or female. But because men tend to have to be more
internalize their pains.
absolutely, they're supposed to be masculine and not, cry out to not share their
Macho.
pain. Yeah, macho. That they tend not to talk about it as much as women. Women tend to have chats, with their friends and their families and talk about things if they dare to. Excuse me, when it comes to domestic abuse. Anyway, without further ado, if you wouldn't mind, Ulu, I would like to share with you my poetic piece. Don't laugh at me.
From the laboratory of poetry. What is mixed together? Let's have a look at the concoction.
Right. What I'm going to say,
hopefully it's going to be very encouraging for.
I don't think it's going to be encouraging as such, but we will talk about the content. It is very emotive. So I'm going to ask our listeners if it's very emotive, it's very deep. It gives you insights in terms of the feelings, the emotions, the inner chatter, the inner dialogue, and the experiences of somebody that is experiencing domestic abuse daily. So it's quite deep. So I'm going to ask you to look after yourself. If it becomes too much, just put me on silent for a little bit. And then you can listen when we have the discussions. But I'm just putting it out there, it's quite deep. And I'm going to read it with enthusiasm as it was intended. So if you're allowing me to do that, Ulu, I'd like to share this poem.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So first of all, the book is called Poetic Voices.
It's a whole book of how many pages?
Oh, it's a thin book, Olu.
Like how many pages?
Oh, so it is, it is 80, just say 90 pages.
Short 90.
90 is, but I've only wrote one piece. You've got lots of different people.
Bits here and there. Okay, it's a compilation.
It's an anthology. It's a compilation. Yes, absolutely. And I'm a contributor. Okay. So I'm going to share with you my contribution to this anthology. Okay. Here we go. It's called Feelings. Feelings. Can you trust your feelings? Feelings are like seasons, they change. Feelings are highs and lows and fasts and slows. Feelings cannot be ignored. Today I felt happy. He was happy. We had a really great day. He told me he loved me. I smiled in my heart. This is the place I loved him from. I did the shopping, I cleaned the house, I took the children to school, I cooked, I washed, I put the children to bed, I read. I'm tired. Today we had a good day. He was in a good mood all day. There was a point when I thought that the day would turn because he said, I never learn. Because the dinner was nearly burnt again. Oh my, did I remember the sting on my face, my throat and my arms? Oh, he hurts me. To learn, he said. Learn the pain, to learn the pattern, to learn the cycle. It's always the same. Cycles, patterns, they won't change. I tell myself I need to learn to leave these cycles. Some seasons are longer than others. Sun, spring, autumn, winter. Sun. Today's a good day, or so I thought. After I'd cooked, I'd cleaned, I put the children to bed, then I read. I returned to the room. That face I knew too well. That something horrible was about to happen. His fist, his breath on my face, his hands around my neck. I can't move. I can't. Oh, I can. I really can. Breathe again. Breathe, I said. Breathe. Thank God I'm still alive. Lord, why have you forsaken me? Why is my spirit cast down within me? Why? I'm submitted to being submissive to this long suffering. Help, or I might die trying to be a good wife, a Proverbs 31 woman. Lord, I'm trying, but his head is not the head over our home. He isn't listening to you. So what should I do when it's only me that's trying and slowly dying? Help! Can you trust your feelings? Feelings are like seasons, they change. Feelings are highs and lows, fasts and slows. Feelings cannot be ignored. I learn that feelings change. The heart of man is desperately wicked if his head and his heart are not fixed on you. His was not. Divine connection, I said. It really was not. I saw the red flags, but I ignored them because of my feelings. Never again. It's taken years for my healing because of my feelings. Take heed as you read. With you I plead. Be yourself. Be true. God's gifts are perfect, and his words are true and will not return to him void. In him I put my trust. Domestic abuse, there's no excuse. Seek help. Thank you very much.
Wow. Indeed. Indeed.
Lulu, this is.
Yeah, that's just it's a thought put together. It's a fictional, I would say, though from some personal experiences.
I think, do you know what? It's a mixture. It is a mixture
I thought.
because I work so closely with victim survivors.
I know.
Because we know sometimes emotionally how we feel as women when we're experiencing various feelings in a relationship context. I think there's the contribution of two, because a woman wants to be a good wife. A woman wants to be the helpmate, the suitable wife, as the word of God, according to my faith and your faith as Christians, that you want to be that suitable mate, so you try to appease.
Which you refer to as a Proverbs 31 woman in your poem.
Absolutely. We try to be the best version of ourselves in our relationships, in a marriage. And sometimes it's just not enough, when the abusive partner, albeit male or female, is not willing to see what they bring to the table and be accountable. Because, when you think about a marriage and you think about a relationship, I think sometimes it gets so messy because people are not working as a team, realizing that when they work together as a team, the whole family wins. Do you know what I mean? The whole family wins.
Absolutely, I do.
So,
Where there's a lot of selfishness, self-ambition, self-pursuits, it becomes a draconian kind of,
Absolutely. And then it becomes
slow yourselves down.
And it becomes combative. So in terms of that, they are fighting against each other
instead of supporting.
Instead of how, I know it sounds simplistic, but really it is. It's either you want to be there or you don't want to be there. Either you invest or you don't invest. But what you put in is surely what you get out. They say a happy wife is a happy home. But similarly, a happy husband is a happy home as well. None is greater than the other. All are equal, and the relationship should be based on equality, responsibility, accountability. And surely, as people of faith, that our guide is the Holy Scriptures.
Absolutely.
Whether you are a Muslim, whether you are a Christian, we are our guide is the holy text. And with that, I believe comes the renewing of our mind. Because, let's think about it. I came from an abusive, I was raised in an abusive household. So I've obviously got things attached to me in my psyche.
Yeah.
That I'm going to bring that baggage into that marriage. I'm going to bring that baggage. I'm going to bring those things that I haven't even recognized within myself. I'm going to bring it into that relationship. No one's perfect.
Absolutely.
But when we want something to work, when we want everybody to win, then we have to start looking at ourselves for who we are and addressing those ugly parts of us, those parts of us that we point the finger at other people, but we don't look at ourselves. And I'm saying that to encourage even the victim survivor. Who are you? What do you think that you deserve? Do you think that you're deserving of a healthy marriage, relationship? Or do you think you're deserving of the abuse? If you're a person of faith, what does your holy text say about abuse? Because when we realign ourselves, we become more free.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to delve into this today because I want you to invite me back, Olu.
We will definitely have you back at least once every month. We'll be happy with having you. Yeah.
Because then came this other book.
I know we have not even we are not going into that today.
No, I'm not.
I'm reserving it.
Yeah,
reserving
absolutely. But yeah, I think Olu, as time goes by, and when we're free, or we come to terms, or we come to a mutual agreement with our spouse, with our partner, then we need to kind of address things within ourselves, the brokenness, the feeling of inadequacy, the feelings of rejection, all of these things in order for us to evolve. And I've been really transparent. I used to be behind the screens dealing with stuff. But after a while, when you are set free, Olu, you're able to share those most intricate things, experiences that you've been through, and keep it authentic so that you can help somebody else. And I'm really embracing who I am, my experiences, and what I can do to help others, Olu.
This is deep indeed. It is deep. It is deep, and it is real. It is real. So, in the course of your discussion now, in the course of what you were saying, you did mention, in fact, the poem you read, because I was following intimately, you did mention that the lady involved, lady in quotes involved, ignored the red flags. But I just want to ask you, is it in all situations where we have red flags ignored, or rather, where we have domestic abuse, are they consequences of red flags that are ignored, or not necessarily?
No, I think in all DV cases, and I say all, red flags were ignored.
Really?
Intuition was ignored with a hope. Because when you think about a perpetrator of abuse, they're very charming, they're very charismatic. They know who they are, we don't know who they are. We just meet this individual. What we all do, we all put our best side forward, we're a bit pretentious, excuse me, we're a bit pretentious in terms of how we present ourselves, you know, because we want to be seen as a good catch, right? Let's keep it real. We want to be seen as a good
Self,
person and a
self
potential.
packaging. Yeah.
That's right.
Self packaging. And
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. And but something will happen. So I'm thinking about somebody that becomes a little bit obsessive with an individual. And that looks very charming initially because they're calling you 3 times a day, 5 times a day. Is that excessive, do you think, Ulu? Do you think that's excessive?
Sort of, to be honest.
And then they're doing it all the time. And then after a while, they say, put your camera on. Let me see where you are. Put your camera on. And it starts really subtly. But when you realize that every time that you're out, they say, put your camera on. And you say, oh, I'm at the GP surgery. I can't put my camera on here. I don't believe you. Put your camera on. And because you want to reassure them, put your camera on. And then it becomes a habit. But you're no longer comfortable.
No.
You're no longer comfortable by saying, I'm putting my camera on. But you realize that it's almost a demand. That's a red flag. A red flag might be, you look really beautiful. I love what you're wearing. It's absolutely lovely. And you've been dressing the same way for years and years and years. But eventually, this person says, you're not going to wear that, are you? And you think, I've been dressing like this for how many years? Well, I think your top is a little bit tight, or I think that your skirt is too tight. Even that. I think you should change it because I'm not going to go out with you like that. And then can you imagine how that individual feels?
So these are the subtle ways in which controls are identified, and the controller chips in his, true
Exactly.
picture. Yeah.
Exactly. But what's ignored is how it's making the individual feel. How the individual is feeling. They might respond, but it's how it's making them feel. That's the red flag. When somebody starts to crush your spirit, makes you start internalizing who you are as a person, and you start to doubt yourself that you were comfortable dressing this way previously. You were comfortable with who you are. You felt free to go where you want to go and do what you want to do because you have your own personal values in terms of who you are. But all of a sudden, the relationship starts to make you question and feel like you're doing something wrong when you're actually not doing anything wrong. Walking on eggshells. As I read, she cooked, she cleaned, she read, she put the children to bed.
She believes she's doing the very best she can do.
Say that again, Willie. Say that again.
Until she begins to lose her self-esteem and self-confidence on
She
account of the input of the abuser or the controller.
And you said it, she said she was doing the very best that she could do. He was doing the very best that he could do because he or she had genuine love and care for the individual that they wanted to do the best. But when the best is not good enough, when the best is then critiqued and rubbished. You spent how many hours cooking
Mm.
to be told, what's this? I'm not eating that. And get thrown on the floor or even at the individual. That's how deep it is, isn't it, Olu? That's how deep it really is when we think about behind the screens, what is actually manifesting, what's happening. Do you know, Olu, you may have heard me say it before, but I liken it to terrorism. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless you. But I liken it to terrorism at home. You're being terrorized
Mm. Mm.
in a place where you should feel at peace and safe, and your children feel safe, but your children no longer feel safe. Yes, Ollie, you know me, I can talk for England when it comes to this
No,
subject.
no,
Not
no,
because
I
it's,
did.
funny, it's because I think that the more we talk about it, it will encourage people to talk about it and to get help.
To be honest, it's better if things are organic and they naturally erupt. It tells and makes people feel, and they can identify with you as a realist. You're not following things up.
No.
So they tend to um, feel comfortable with what they're hearing from you, and they can picture themselves. There's a place to place themselves. As we are here broadcasting live now, some people are listening to us and they can identify with things that actually resonate with their current ongoing circumstances. It will amaze you what we are citing as mere illustration just for explanation purposes, or it will amaze you. That's exactly the situation that some people listening to us live next door, 4 doors away, down the road, that's actually what they're passing through. That's actually what they're passing through. And that's the reality about this show. So there's no single show that where we can um, dramatize or show, explain, or discuss everything possible that people go through behind the screens. That's why we come in week after week. And it seems, do you know, at the point in time, I was just, excuse me, I was just beginning to ask myself, is it really worth my time, the while hanging around on Thursday mornings on this show,
Mm.
only for me to hear that people are religiously following us on Facebook? They are religiously following us on YouTube, or because it's a radio station and channel, I didn't realize this. What am I saying? We are giving out to the community and we are doing our own bit. But I've come to also realize that this is a matter. Probably one of these days, you will return and then we discuss how sensitive, how relevant, and how important this has been in the heart of the state, to the extent that they had to carve out an office for the Commissioner of Domestic
Mm.
Abuse.
Yes, absolutely.
So it tells you that it's really making some serious impact in our society, that is no longer to be swept under the carpet. The government is beginning to see it as a matter to really deal with. Same way you deal with housing issues, same way you deal with debt or any other situation that affects the society. I would have thought with a lot of advocacy and a lot of rules and regulations and edicts and laws, these would, recede and subside. But what do we notice in essence? Rates are rising, domestic abuse.
And just on the back of what you just said, Ulu, I think, do you know what? I just commend you that you've stuck with it. You said just now that, you thought of giving up and, whether you should continue or not. But what you're doing, you're adding value to somebody else's life. You're helping a perpetrator to recognize where they're going wrong. You might not see them walk into the GP surgery or go and disclose or go and share, but you're adding value. So well done to you for sticking with it. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the encouraging words. So we'll begin to draw a curtain to today's show because I promised, knowing fully well that you guys are volunteers and you are giving out of your break time, of your valued hours, just for free to the community. I must commend you for that and thank you for making out time because I know for you in particular, every half an hour ought to be paid for. But fair on you, nothing. You are just doing this out of passion for what you love doing and to help
Absolutely.
someone out there, which I must publicly appreciate you for. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show. Before you go, do you want to have a final word to those who are listening to us and they need a lot of encouragement from you?
I think that if you have been triggered in any way by what we've shared today, you can go to Google and just type in domestic abuse or domestic violence support, and you'll be able to find out about services that are available to you locally. I believe you can also get in contact with the studio. Is that right, Lulu?
You can get in contact with this today. You can also get in contact with Back in Control Consultancy Services. You can also dial 101. There are quite a number of services out there, organizations that can support you. What the service you'll be doing yourself is to remain silent and behind the screens. You need to seek help.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you very much for having me, Ulu. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
listeners, for listening and
Danica
tuning in.
Simpson,
I look
Back
forward
in
to seeing you
Control.
another time.
Thank you. Veronica Simpson, Back in Control Consultancy Services. We enjoy your participation today, our special guest. This is where we draw a curtain to today's show. Everyone who has been following us on Facebook, on YouTube, live on your appliances, we appreciate you for your good time. Looking forward again to connecting with you on this same platform. Behind the screens, domestic abuse, seek help with Olusegun. Thank you, Veronica. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
And
you.
to you,
You too. You
listeners,
too.
we say goodbye to you all. Thank you very much.